Do you want to know how to discipline a child without yelling or hitting? You're not alone. I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting and good communication as well as child development all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about keeping your children calm and you being calm too. In this video, we're going to be talking about why people yell and hit, a little bit of the history of yelling and hitting, and what to do instead that might actually be more effective. We all want effective parenting, right? There's the type of parenting that you do in a rush. We might call that efficient parenting, but actually what we really want is effective parenting. So efficient parenting is when you're getting all the things talked about very, very quickly, but effective parenting is when you're hitting the heart. So this whole channel is called Teaching Self-Government. That's what I'm all about. When a person truly learns self-government, that means that they have a change of heart. When we are disciplining our children and teaching our children, our concern really is usually the heart, isn't it? So why do we go after the body so much? Well, sometimes it's just because it seems like the quickest thing to make an impact on. So we can grab a body, we can manipulate a body, we can do something to a body by hitting, we can manipulate feelings by yelling and getting aggressive. It seems like it's quicker. In the end, the relationship damage, the emotional damage, is actually a whole lot more cleanup work than if we just took some time at the beginning to get calm and to do things in a way that would really touch the heart. Whenever you go after somebody, yelling or in violence, in anger in some way, immediately they are pulled back. Now maybe that's what you want to have happen. You want to scare them, instill some fear. That is a historical concept. Some people think and used to think back in the day that the children need to fear their parents. If they feared their parents, then they won't make mistakes. But here's the thing. Our society right now does not actually support the idea of fearing parents. And quite frankly, when children do feel fear of their parents and then later they graduate into adulthood and they see, well, I just did that out of fear, the lessons aren't sticking. They're pulling away from their families. They're pulling away from their religions and their cultures and their morals. They're pulling away from everything that the parents were teaching them out of fear because the society isn't always backing it up. So if you want your children to truly have a change of heart, to want what is good, right, and true, to follow virtue and principles, then, and to love you and to love family and to want a family, then it needs to be real, not manipulated, okay? Yelling, that's all about you. Hitting, that's all about you. Parents who yell and hit their children are more concerned with how they are feeling in the moment than what the child is truly needing as far as an interaction with the parent. Your emotions are taking over. That means that you are in a selfish state. You won't touch the heart of the child. You will just instill fear in the child, but it won't be the type of fear that you want. Lots of times when children are afraid of their parents, they start to not trust the parents. They start to look for other sources of trust. Don't you want to be their trusted person, their advisor, their first source of information? Of course you do. You're the parent. You know, you have a lot of experiences that you can draw upon to teach them, but they might start turning to friends, to social media, pop culture, other things if they are starting to feel like you are the person that should be feared. See, the thing is, back in the old days when parents were focused on just instilling fear in their children, there was nobody else to turn to take care of them, to teach them things, besides their parents and maybe a few of those scary teachers at the one-room schoolhouse. But now, everybody's vying for the attention of the child. Everyone is ready to teach your child. The toy manufacturers, the people at the schools, the people who make music, TV, movies, the digital devices, everyone. And there's specific programs too that are geared toward just reaching the children whose parents maybe aren't reaching them. And sometimes the outcomes of these programs might not be what you want for your children. So what should you do? Well, if you've subscribed to this channel, then you know by now that I teach all kinds of skills and principles of self-government. What is self-government? Self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. That means that a person makes choices for themselves based off information that they have learned so that they can chart the best course for themselves. They can solve their problems. They can have the choice of happiness in their circumstances because they know they get to choose. People want that for their children. That's why they come here. Well, this video is no different. I'm going to be sharing with you some skills of self-government, some principles of self-government that you can use so that you don't have to resort to emotional manipulation, to bullying, to aggressive behavior in order to get the attention of your children. A truly healthy parent-child relationship is recognized when a parent can get the attention of their child by simply looking at them, by talking about something in a loving, kind, and understanding way. And the child actually listens, cares about it, and wants to bond closer to their parents and learn more from their parents. That is still possible in this day and age. Sure, there's a lot of things that are competing for our child's attention, right? So we might have other sources that want to teach our children, but if they know that they're safe with us, that they can trust us, that even when things have gone wrong or they've made mistakes, that it's always safe with us, then they will keep coming back to us. Because guess what? Everything else that's out there can't fully be trusted because they don't actually hold the best interests of the child in their hearts. They want to get something out of the child. The world wants to exploit the children. And they'll find that out soon enough. So what do you do instead if you're not going to yell and hit? Well, you've got to use your words. Words are powerful, but they've got to be calm. And at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a gift that you can have so that you can have more calmness in your life. And I think you're really going to enjoy it. So you choose calmness. Now, let's say you've got yourself to calm. You've already worked on calmness within yourself. You have practiced self-government for yourself. Now what do? Now you teach your children the skills that they need for success and the skills that you are going to use to help them along in the journey. So we've addressed now issue number one, which is if you're not a self-governed parent, you're probably not going to end up with self-governed children, which really means that you'll have a hard time with gaining respect and happiness and connection with your children. So make sure that you work on yourself first. All of the self-government skills and principles that we teach our children actually can be applied to everyone. That's why they're principles. So you need to be using them too. So in the TSG parenting course, which is on my website, teachingselfgovernment.com, this is where I teach 3-day trainings for parenting for parents. They're intensives. They're called 3-day parenting mastery trainings is what they're called. That's one of the best ways to learn, by the way. So if you can ever see one of those in your area, or if you want to join one of the online live ones or something like that, if you're, far away from where I happen to be at that particular time of the year, join those. That's the quickest, best way to learn all of the Teaching Self-Government parenting system. But if not, there is a TSG parenting course. And in that TSG parenting course, I teach 4 basic skills for children. I teach 5 teaching styles for parents, but the children need to learn all 9 of those things. Also, I teach 3 meetings that the parents are going to have for good proactive teaching that help the children learn ahead of time what is expected and how problems are going to be solved. I also teach the skill sets for calmness, how to troubleshoot and problem solve a situation. We learn different problem solving exercises. I help parents set up an environment where children have buy-in for the standards and the morals in their home so that there's not constant conflict for those things as well. And so it all starts with calmness and then these 4 basic skills. So what are the 4 basic skills of self-government? The 4 basic skills of self-government are following instructions. If a child won't follow your instructions, you can't actually teach them anything. The parenting is now lost because you've lost the roles. The second is accepting no answers and criticism. Things happen in life that we don't have control over. We have to be able to accept it sometimes, right? Someone cuts you off in traffic or you can't find your shoe. Those are all no answers of life. We need to prepare to handle, whether adult or children. Then also there's accepting consequences. Cause and effect is a true principle. So that means that we are going to experience it in all things. Can we accept the consequences, whether positive or negative, of our behaviors, thoughts, and actions? I hope so. Then fourth, disagreeing appropriately. This is absolutely one of their favorite skills, usually because it helps them get their way and it helps them get understood. Do you know, oftentimes when your children are acting out, it's usually just because they don't have the skills for how to talk to you. They don't know how to get your attention. They don't know what they don't know. And they feel like they have to share something, but it's just an emotional mess inside of them. So then their behavior gets worse and worse. And then you start power struggling and it gets worse and worse. What if we teach them how to disagree with us in an appropriate way? Think what that would do. When a person disagrees with somebody else, they have to seek to understand the other person's point of view before they share their point of view. They have to have calmness, respect, understanding. It takes time and patience, and it does take practice. But it is the gateway skill to self-government. It helps the relationships. It helps the person see that they can express themselves in a way where they can be understood and not have to fight. It helps engage the prefrontal cortex of the brain so that the person does not have to resort to that amygdala, that emotional center, or that fight or flight going all the way to that downstairs brain. They don't have to do that type of thing if they have the skills that they need. For years, ever since 1999, people have been asking me to teach this. It wasn't even something I ever planned on teaching. I was just doing therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens and raising my own babies. And people started saying, Nicholeen, those teens in your home are changing so much. Will you please tell us what you're doing? We need it too. I thought it would be short-lived. But you know what I've found? Is that there are a lot of people who are struggling to maintain control and connection and love in their relationships as they parent their children in this frustrating, complicated, emotional world. You may need some help for yourself. You may need some calmness. Maybe there's some excuses you're hanging on to, and that's why you're still getting angry and hitting and yelling at children. I have multiple videos on this channel about spanking and about hitting children, so be sure to check out some of those so that you can understand why it won't work, because it's really not going to work, especially for the long term, for your relationships, especially not now in this day and age that we live. So what can you do instead? Start with your calmness. And I have a free gift for you, remember? So I have a Calm Parenting Toolkit. It's a mini course. It's a beginner course to learning self-government. And I would like to give it to you completely for free. So in the description below this video, there is a link to the Calm Parenting Toolkit. It says teachselfgov.com/toolkit. If you click on that link right now, you can have the Calm Parenting Toolkit for free. It will give you 10 tools to help your calmness and theirs hopefully stop those power struggles for good.